talent. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
You know, I love that intro that Mr. Mendoza put together, especially when he gives the Hollywood Squares version of all the people that have been on the show smiling and having a great time. No matter how I feel, it always ramps me up and makes me fearless. And that's today's show, is how to be fearless in business. There's all kinds of ways to do it. I just gave you one of my special tips. Before we get rolling, I want to thank our sponsors, Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar, Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. They're getting ready to open up that brand new Lincoln store up there. It's very exciting. And we'll mention them more in the context of what we're going to be talking about today a little bit later on in the show. Thank you to Larry Nesmith and the rest of the team over at Warren Henry. And now let's talk about our show and what the opportunities we're going to talk about today is. And it's really talking about being fearless in business. And I'm terrified pretty much every minute of the day during business. But I find that it's really not fear. What it really is manifestation of the energy that it takes for me to do something that I believe is important. So it's really not fear. What it really is it's a motivational system that comes together. And I'm not your therapist. If that ain't what it is, then you better talk to somebody else. But for me, in business, the whole thing is all about focus. And the first lesson I learned in business is that each person puts their pants on one leg at a time. And I'll tell you how old I am when I talk about this. The person that I envisioned putting their pants on one leg at a time, because they were the premier real estate person of the time, was Donald Trump. So not about politics, simply about somebody who's rather intimidating and envisioning them in a way that it doesn't intimidate you. So it could be anybody that intimidates you. But when I got started in business, that was one of the people that always projected an image of strength and intimidation. And so I always figured that I would be more than ready to go up against Donald Trump or anybody else that I met in business. And so far, I can cold call anybody. So I got no fear. Believe me, it doesn't matter. That's not about politics. That's merely about projected image 35 years ago at this point. I get terrified before every cold call. And believe me, nobody makes more cold calls than I do. In fact, when I get some of the real estate brokers or investment bankers on the phone on a cold call, we talk about how we make cold calls and how many we make and who we cold call. And in fact, since I've been working on my new private equity spin, the people that I used to know on LinkedIn where I'd have 500, 1,000, 1,500 common contacts, I have 0, 1, or 2. But I take strength from knowing and doing the research on the person, not about how many contacts we have in common. And I always think about, how am I going to mess up this call? What am I going to forget to say that I want to say? So I always have an outline in front of me. Sometimes the outline is the website. Sometimes the outline is the follow-up email that I send. And every time I make a phone call to somebody, if I don't get them, I send them a follow-up email. If I do get them, I send them a follow-up email. It's just that the tagline is different. Oh, and here's a little tip. Whenever I send an email to somebody I left a message for but didn't speak to, in the subject line, I always put, I just left you a voicemail. So hopefully that breaks it out from people that get all these. I mean, we all get lots of these cold calls and blast emails. So the preparation is what strengthens me, and it helps me address my fear. But like I said before, I never lose that feeling of discomfort and emotional vulnerability, I guess. It makes me seem real. Every person that I'm calling is going through the same types of insecurities in their world. So they're dealing with their issues. So all I look to do is to present a positive image based on information I know about the person I'm calling. I look for something in common that I have with the person. A lot of times it's Go Gators or some trade group that I'm a member of with them. And one other group that really is special to me is the 400 people that 450 actually, that helped Vivian and I when we dropped out of business for a while and we're simply in the kidney search mode. 450 people helped us stay alive, and I call them, and they're always ready to pick up the phone. They're always ready to talk, and they're a safe harbor. So that's another tip: is if you're really uptight, call somebody that's one of your safe harbors. Oh, and make sure you're in the right state of mind when you make that call. If you're not got your head on straight, if you're dealing with the call that you just made to the call center about your computer or something, probably a good time to take a walk around the block. Don't make that phone call until after you've given yourself a hug and you're ready to project positive energy. Because I can tell you one thing for sure: whoever you're calling, they don't want to hear about your call with Apple. They don't want to think about the call they want to have with Comcast when they have to get off with you. And they certainly don't want to have to deal with chasing the person that abused your card illegally and you had to go shut down and organize your credit. No one wants to hear that. Guess what? They're going through something similar in their world. And unless they bring it up, not something to talk about. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how this works and what I've seen in the auto industry before we go to our break with Warren Henry. The person that taught me about how to go get somebody is my mom. My mom used to sell used cars up at JM Pontiac in Broward County. And my mom would be up there on Sunday, and it would be hot as the place gets. And all the guys would be there, and they'd be watching the Dolphin game, and somebody would walk up. And this was before ladies really sold cars. This was 25, 30 years ago. And my mom would be the first person out there to greet them. And the lesson is the top salesperson is always ready to go meet the next person. Now, the next person may look like a problem. The next person may not look like a buyer. But hey, you can't judge a book by the cover. And a lot of times the people that didn't look like they were the buyer ended up buying 2 or 3 cars and shipping them out to Latin America or something. And my mom made 3 sales instead of just 1. So the top salesperson will always be on their way out of their office to meet you first. The lesson there is if you're afraid to make the sale and afraid to meet the person, you're never going to make the sale. So high five to my mom, who was always the first one out to make the sale. Now, stick with me for the last word while we talk about my favorite auto dealer, Warren Henry Automotive. Mr. Mendoza, isn't this a time when you run a little video? So we're going to talk about Warren Henry. We know that they've got their store up on 150 Verst in Biscayne that sells all the different models. They've got their store up in Gainesville that sells Audis and the Keys. They sell everything. But what I really want to talk about with Warren Henry is the cars are one thing, but it's really the people. And they have no fear, and they always call, and they always reach out like my mom. Their top salesperson, Sebastian, runs out of his office to talk to people. I've seen it. Ismet, the sales manager, is always ready to take your call and make sure it gets done right. He calls me, and then Luan, the service person, she calls me to make sure my appointment is set up right and correct. All 3 are calling me. When they call me, they may be wondering, what's Jim going to say? What's Jim going to do? How's Jim going to, do this? But I'm always kind with them because they always have my best interest in mind. So a great lesson is taught by the folks at Warren Henry. Sebastian, their top salesperson, Ismet, their head of sales, and of course, Larry, who makes the whole place run like a watch. Of course, high five to Jack, Eric, and the rest of my friends at Warren Henry Automotive. And I want to thank Ronaldo, who took over for Maytel Stark, doing my great service. And Ronaldo called me to make sure everything went okay, too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hey, I'm back. I'm Jim Freed, founder of Sandstone Realty Advisors. Give me a call about your capital markets needs, your real estate problems. I can usually help with all of them. And whenever you call me, it's always all about you. Now, let's get back to the show. We were talking about cold calls, the fears that you have in that. And so we had a couple of weeks ago, my mentee was on, Noah. Noah rocks the boat. Now we've got a new mentee, Lorenzo. We'll have Lorenzo on somewhere down the road. So what I asked Noah to do to help, not necessarily him and probably Lorenzo, and then the people that follow after him, is let's create a process. It gets rid of the uncertainty and it creates the list of things that you want to talk about. I talked about earlier about the fact that you want to have an agenda. That's what I've asked them to do. And if the process you're using is not working, tweak it. It should be a living evaluation at all times. And don't be so egotistical that you don't ask for help. Everybody on your team is going to have an opinion. Ask them for their opinion and be open-minded to take their suggestions, because odds are you're going to have a blind spot. Be strong enough and believe in yourself enough to address the blind spot and make yourself better. Listen to the way other people see things and understand why they have that perspective. It'll always help you to make a better call. And so remember, call me, Jim Freed, the founder of Sandstone Realty Advisors. Remember, Warren Henry, our sponsor for 14, 15 years, always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. And for all the people that want to get a real estate education and take it to the next level, you can always go to the Bergstrom Center of Real Estate Studies. I'm helping a young person that I met at the AEPI conference a few weeks ago polish up their resume and access Nikki Wagner and the rest of the intake people at the Bergstrom Center. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid. That's the theme. Give me a call and let me help you get your future in order. If you want to be in real estate, there's no better place to do that than the Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies. My mentor, Kelly Bergstrom. Thank you so much for what you do for real estate, Kelly. Remember, the person that wants to do so. Oh, this is perfect for today's show. The person that wants to do something finds a way. Have no fear. The person that doesn't, what did I do? The person that, I forgot it. The person wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. See, I got all excited about don't have fear. Don't find the excuse. Go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Mr. Mendoza, give us the end of the show.